Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are finally back. Oh, I am so sorry that we've been away for a few weeks. Let me tell you why. First of all, after our last video when we were in Wiesbaden, looking at that wonderful big organ in that wonderful huge church, we both came down with a bit of a cold. First, my missus came down with a cold, and that turned into a sort of a throat infection, which then rather nastily got passed on to me as a throat infection. That then became a coughing fit for about a week and a half for her, which I then got as well. Over the course of sort of 5 or almost 6 weeks, we had sort of passed these bugs between us the whole time and just couldn't get fit. But thankfully, now we are fit again and we're back. So sorry for the delay. It wasn't planned and it wasn't deliberate. It was actually purely because we couldn't film with sort of coughing and spluttering the whole time. It wouldn't have sounded very nice and certainly wouldn't have looked very nice. So we're back. And today, I think you can hear it, we've got a bit of an acoustic going. Are we in a huge church again? No, we're in a very, very small church. And what I wanted to show today is the exact opposite of what we did last time. Last time when we were in the huge church in Wiesbaden with the 8 or 9 seconds acoustic and the organ that fits in that church, what I wanted to show today is that actually it will also work in a very small church. And here, we'll have a quick look around in a minute. We're in a very, very small church, but still with a very nice acoustic, and obviously there's a rather small organ in the church that fits along with that. So if you look up there to the organ loft, you can see a few open pipes surrounding that rather nice modern church window there with an image of Maria, and it's obviously a church belonging to Maria, because everywhere there's sort of Maria things. We're in a tiny little village in the Westerwald called Marienhausen, and we're going to have a look at the organ in the church here. Welcome to the organ loft. Here we are upstairs at the console. You've just had a quick look at the pipes again, and yeah, this is it. We've got 2 manuals, we have a little battery of stops, and that's it. And the reason I've chosen this church today, or to show this organ today, is because a number of people have been asking in comments or even in emails over the last weeks and months, what do you actually need for an organ? You know, why do some organs have hundreds of stops and why do others not have very many stops? Is it a sort of a standard that organ builders follow when they're building an organ? Does an organ have to have a certain kind of stop or a certain number of certain stops to make certain sounds, or can it just be any old mishmash of pipes and things? And I've chosen this organ because it's got the absolutely perfect minimalist registration. There aren't many stops. There's only 3 in the pedal. There's only a few in the grate, and there's only, well, 5 up on the upper manual. And to be honest, you don't need any more. And like I say, we're in a relatively small church anyway, so you're definitely not going to need any more. But this, I think, is the perfect minimalist disposition for any organ. Why Marienhausen? Well, there's a personal connection to this church. They have a rather wonderful church choir here, and I have to say they're rather wonderful because it's my choir. It belongs to the parish of Herschbach, where I play the organ. You know Herschbach, where most of the videos take place. And this church belongs to that parish, and in the parish I conduct 3 of the choirs. Marienhausen is one of them. Marienhausen is also now the largest choir. When I started 5 years ago, it was the smallest choir I had here. There are still smaller choirs in the parish, but it was the smallest one I had, 20-something singers. And over the years, that's grown to now 40-something singers. And if you have a look around the organ loft here, space is becoming a bit limited for the singers here. It becomes quite sort of cozy and cuddly up here when we perform at services. But I get to sit at the organ, so I've got the most space of them all. And yeah, why choose this organ? Well, it's not just because it's in the parish. It's because, like I said, it has a perfect disposition. And you know that wonderful saying, size doesn't matter, or maybe size does matter, but in this case, size really doesn't matter, because if you've got everything you need, why would you ever want anything more? One of the first things we just discovered is the light for the pedal board isn't working. And my colleague, the regular organist here, has installed a normal desk light, which I think is rather cute, and it does the job. Hope you can see that. It does the job. It lights everything up. So, what do I find so wonderful about this instrument? Well, for a start, the manuals don't just go from C to F like they do in my Hirschbach organ. They go from C to G. Now, that's like one whole tone more. It's 2 notes, 2 semitones more. Can that really be so important? Well, actually, yes. A lot of organ repertoire requires that G or an F sharp. And I can't play that music in Hirschbach, but I can play it here. So that's number one, why I really rather like this organ. Number two, I actually like the cute colors that are involved here. I don't know if you can see that properly on the thing, but the pedal stops are in sort of a green. The Hauptwerk, the great stops, are in black. And then the Oberwerk, the upper work, they're in sort of a nice little red color. I suspect a few years ago when the organ was installed that was a much brighter color, and over the years it's dulled down a bit. Maybe not, maybe it was like that originally. Now, something else that I rather love about this church is the atmosphere. And I don't mean when people are here there's a nice atmosphere. I mean the physical atmosphere, the air in here. The humidity and the temperature of this church are pretty much constant throughout the entire year. Now, it's technically summer at the moment. I don't know, I think it was 22 degrees outside today. Centigrade, that is. What's that? That's something like, I don't know, 69 Fahrenheit or something like that. Maybe less, I'm not sure. I can't remember Fahrenheit, but anyway. And it's beautifully cool in here, like there's sort of like there's some kind of air conditioning running. And it's like that all year round. In winter, it's cold in here. In summer, it's cold in here. They've got a heating system, but all it seems to do is blow really hot air through the sacristy before the services start. None of that warm air seems to make it into the church. Now, that might be uncomfortable for the visitors, but it's absolutely perfect for the organ. And if you pop round to the organ, again, please, the pipes, all the pipes are open. And if you look further back, you can see the different rows of pipes. I don't know, can we see? Yeah, there you are. You can see sort of different rows of pipes, and they're open to the elements. There's no swell box in this organ. There is a swell pedal. Well, it's actually a crescendo pedal, as it's called there, and I'll tell you about that in a moment. But because the pipes are open to the elements all the time, they can move with the temperatures. They can go sharp, they can go flat with the temperature in the church and the humidity. So the organ is never out of tune, which makes it really rather lovely to play all the time. So what do we have here? Underneath the manuals, I also have these 3 little buttons, or 4 buttons really. I have a free combination. I have the tutti button, the most important button on any organ, and the off button, as it were. But it's not really off button, because if I have stops on, they are on. I don't have an off button, as it were, on this organ, which some modern organs do have. This one doesn't. Let's have a quick look at these stops and see what makes this organ so special. So to go back to those comments that I talked about before, what do you actually need when you're designing an organ? How many stops do you actually need? Do you need 110 stops, or do you maybe just need, how many is that? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, or just 15 stops? I personally think you only need 15. And certainly in a little church, you don't need more than that. And this organ actually has it all. It's very clever. Now, I don't know if you remember from other videos, I talked briefly about different kinds of organ pipes. You've got the flue pipes, which are basically like flutes and recorders in the real world, and then they have the reed pipes, like the trumpets and oboes and clarinets and things like that. And of the flue pipes, there are the different types. There are the flutes. Quite a chiffy little flute, that one. You have stringy sounds. And then, of course, you have the principal sounds, the diapason sounds. There's that nice little acoustic. And this organ has, like I said, pretty much everything you're actually going to need. So I have an 8-foot flute. And if I want to have that in dialogue with another flute, I have another 8-foot flute on the upper manual. Which is a rather cute little effect. I have a 4-foot flute to go with that. And I have a 2-foot flute. Now that's back on the lower manual, so I would have to couple the upper manual to the lower manual. Now I have 2 8-foot flutes, and the 4-foot, and the 2-foot. If I get rid of the coupler, I only have 8 and 2, which gives a nice sort of spiky effect. Very cute, isn't it? So those are just the flute possibilities on this organ. I then have my principal, my diapason sound. So here's the big 8-foot. Then you have the octave 4-foot, so that would be like a principal 4. And I have on the upper manual, I have the 2-foot principal, so I would have to couple that down. If I want to make it a little more fruity, I have one of those in-between sounds. So when I play a C note, a G pipe sounds. It's the quinta, so it's sounding at a 5th above the 4-foot. So let me show you that again. Actually, here's a 4-foot sound, and then there's the 2 2/3, so it's sounding at a 5th above that. So if I have all of my principal sounds with that 5th there, I get this rather. It just adds a little more flavor to the sound. I then, of course, have a mixture. There are 4 different pipes, different varieties in this mixture, and that gives it a nice bright sound. And to complete it, of course, we have a nice big but round sounding trumpet. Trumpet is sadly a tiny little bit out of tune, so ignore what I said in the last clip where I said that this organ is never out of tune. It is a tiny little bit out of tune here today, but we'll let it off. So that's a little introduction to the basic sounds of the organ. Now there are a couple of little things that have been changed over the years. First of which, if you would like to come in closer please, is number 17 in the Oberwerk. Now that says 17 Sifflöte 1-foot, and that is no longer a 1-foot flute. What is a 1-foot flute? Well, here's an 8-foot flute. A 4-foot flute is an octave higher. A 2-foot flute is an octave higher than that. And obviously a 1-foot flute would then be another octave higher. You know what I mean? So originally that's what that was. Now it's changed. It's now a stringy sound. It's now something called a salitional, and that gives it a sort of more and it's sort of a softer foundation stop. So if you take the 8-foot flute and the 8-foot salitional together, you've got a lovely sort of accompaniment sound for soft stuff. Now, if I take all the 8 foots together, and put on a bit of pedal, you get an almost sort of French sounding foundation. Which is almost too big for this church. I think it's rather beautiful. And that's just 8-foot stops, nothing else. Now, something else I didn't show you in the Oberwerk, in the upper manual, is number 18, which is called 18 Sesquialter, and then 2 pipes, 2 ranks, as it were. And if I play one note of that, you can hear 2 sounds. Now, if I oops, sorry. One note played, 2 notes played, yeah? It plays a G and an E at the same time, which has nothing to do with C. Well, what it actually is, it's a 5th and a 3rd at the same time. Now, that sounds a bit strange down there, but if I play higher with an 8-foot sound on it, it sounds a bit like a clarinet. Sounds like a little bit like a clarinet, and that I can use as a solo sound, accompanied just by a flute in the bottom manual. It's quite cute, isn't it? Little effect with just 2 tiny little stops. Okay. What I can do at the same time, I can have a solo-y sounding thing going on the lower manual. It's not quite the clarinet-y sound, but it's sort of half of the clarinet sound. Yeah? I've got an 8-foot sound and a 2 2/3 sound. So that's sounding a D, and at the same time an A an octave higher. So as you get higher, sounds like that. But I can do it. So all that's missing is that 3rd above to make it sound like a clarinet, which I have here. Hear the difference? So I have 2 solo-y sounds going there, and because I have my free combination row here, I can swap between them. So if I set up the normal ones to be this solo, I can set up the upper row of stops to be my accompaniment. And I can swap between them. Yeah, it's quite clever, isn't it? And that's just with a tiny little combination of stops on this tiny little organ. And with a bit of switching around, it's possible. Not bad. Before we get into our piece of music for today's video, I wanted to show you this Crescendo pedal get up. It says Crescendo, and it looks like a swell pedal, but there are no swell boxes in the organ, so what does it do? Well, it's actually a very old-fashioned stop crescendo. And I actually can't remember the proper English term for it. I've been away for so long, I can't remember, but never mind, someone will tell me. What it does, if this thing, when this button is on, it's switched off. That makes sense. So if I switch the button off, now this thing is switched on, and it's basically a stop crescendo. What it does, it adds the stops for me as I go in this crescendo. Now, it's programmed all the wrong way, so it sounds completely stupid. But if I just sort of start playing and then gradually open this crescendo pedal, stops will appear. and then disappear again. Now, sort of 100 years ago, when organs didn't have these modern sequencers and registration possibilities, that was a very useful thing to have. It was sort of a crescendo roller you could have, or you could have it as a pedal like that. And you could add stops and take away stops. Great for romantic organ music. But normally only found on larger organs. So what on earth it's doing on an organ with only 15 stops, I have no idea. I think it's quite cool that it's there, but it's actually a bit useless. There's even an indicator to show you how many stops you've got on. It goes all the way up to 30, which I think is hilarious, seeing as there's only 15 stops. I imagine if we got into the console and programmed it in a different order, it would be quite a useful thing to have. But completely pointless on an organ this small, but nonetheless rather cute to have. Right, time for that little piece of music I promised. And today I'm going to go back to my jazzy world. And in a moment I'm going to play something spontaneous. I haven't even thought of a title. Something jazzy again. Now, in the last videos, I kept promising you a certain piece of music when we reached a certain number of subscribers. And that number of subscribers was reached rather quick. And we didn't quite get around to doing that yet, but I'll tell you why. The deal was, if I get 10,000 subscribers by the end of May, I will post a video of me playing Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor in my kilt. And yeah, that is planned. Thankfully, I didn't say when I was going to play it. All I said was if I get 10,000 by the end of May, then we're going to do it. So I was actually going to do it by the end of May, but then we had our little sickness period and I couldn't get it couldn't fit it in. So sorry about that. But we've had a better idea. Yeah, it will still be the Toccata and Fugue in D minor, but we have now found we've developed a little plan of how we're going to do it. It's going to be rather cool, hopefully. Sort of various cameras and various organs. Now, what does that mean? Think about that for a minute. So that will be coming soon, promise. Now, in the meantime, since we said all that in May and all the rest of it, we're now at the beginning of July, and we've now got 20,000 subscribers. How did that happen? Another 10,000 subscribers in 1 month. So if this keeps going like this, 10,000 subscribers every month, well, firstly, we will be very happy because this is great. We never thought this channel would have this amount of support. It's absolutely wonderful and we love it. Thank you. So keep subscribing if you like what you see and hear. And yeah, I'm now looking for something else for my 50,000 mark. So yeah, any ideas? Something I could play for 50,000? I have some ideas myself, and I dare say you will have some ideas, but please, nothing completely out of the world. Don't forget, we're going for a nice audience here, so nothing really weird that's going to take me years to practice. Yeah, so you know, if you have some ideas, let me know. Something for 50,000. Okay. Thank you also to our financial supporters. So we've got our PayPal me people. Sorry, I really can't speak English today. PayPal. We've got Patreon, and we've got Steady, which are the sort of the monthly subscription things running. And that keeps growing and growing, so that's absolutely wonderful. Thank you for your support. We love everything you want to donate towards the channel, and it all goes back into the channel, so thank you very much for that. Yeah, we'll be back very soon with our next video, but let's finish off with that promised piece of jazzy music on this lovely but tiny little organ here at Marienhausen. Good to see you back. See you next time again. Take care. Bye-bye.